¿Cómo están? Saben que cada vez falta menos, ¿no? Para esta misión histórica Artemis II. Todavía no sabemos si es en febrero, en marzo o abril, pero a medida que van pasando los días, cada vez falta menos para esta histórica misión. Ustedes saben que mi objetivo es traerles todos los detalles de cada uno de los aspectos del vuelo. Bueno, hoy le toca el turno a los trajes. ¿Vieron esos trajes naranjas que ya seguramente lo hemos visto, lo hemos compartido cuando los astronautas hacen alguna que otra prueba? Bueno, esos trajes naranjas que ustedes ven que se ponen son un derivado de los trajes que usaban en el proyecto del Traje Espacial, el Space Shuttle. Mi idea era tratar de entender cómo la NASA ha mejorado y trabajado durante los últimos años para llegar a hoy lo que se llama internamente en la NASA OX, un diminutivo del acrónimo OCSS, que significa Orion Crew Survival System, o Sistema de Supervivencia de Tripulación de Orión. Así que hablé con el líder de este proyecto, Dustin Ghomert, que nos cuenta todas las mejoras que se hicieron, cómo pasamos de tener solamente 3 talles a ahora ir totalmente customizado a la medida de cada astronauta Artemis. ¿Para qué lo van a usar? ¿Cómo puede ayudarlos en caso de una emergencia? Bueno, un montón de detalles de estos trajes para que cuando ustedes vean el walkout de los astronautas, lo vean yendo a la plataforma y ya ajustándose todo dentro de la cápsula, ustedes ya van a saber exactamente para qué lo van a usar, para qué funciona. Así ya se van familiarizando con estos trajes OCSS. Espero que les guste. Dustin, it's a pleasure to meet you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Very good. How about yourself?
I'm fine. Thank you so much. I was so interested now that Artemis II is approaching, and I think we are closer to launch. So my idea was to talk with you to get into more details about the suits. So I know that you're the project management of the OCSS,
That's correct.
Orion Crew Survival System. So why don't you give us a brief description of these famous orange suits? I know a little bit of this
Yeah.
of the history of them and where are they coming from, but I
Mhm.
would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. So the OCSS, which we lovingly call OX as the acronym, the OX suit is derived from shuttle, but also derived from Apollo. And so we have components of each built into it, along with new technologies built into it, new fabrication methods. But the idea of the OX suit fundamentally is it is an intravehicular suit, meaning used inside the vehicle for long duration survival. So the key difference of this suit from any suit we've done in the past is that it is designed for you to live in it up to 6 days. So that's no small feat to pull off because humans don't stop being human for those 6 days. And so we have to meet all of our biological needs, food,
Right.
water, waste management, all of those things have to happen inside that. Even sleeping, unprecedented activities we will be doing inside these suits if there was an emergency. And so I have to caveat this with it is intended for use for the astronauts as a safe haven in case of a cabin depress or other accident that may happen. Ideally, we don't ever have to use these suits, but this is the backup measure we have to keep the crew safe in the event that something unforeseen happened.
Can we describe these suits as a mini spacecraft that works inside the capsule, inside the spaceship?
Absolutely. And so that's it is a personalized spacecraft. It provides you your own, airflow, your own pressure, your own temperature controls. It is a spaceship that's about an inch bigger than your body. So imagine living in a shell only about an inch or two bigger than you for that duration. It's a surreal experience. But we go to great lengths to make this suit fully tailored to each person. So every joint of every segment of your body, down to even the individual knuckles of your fingers, are measured as we build this suit for each person custom, and that is to allow them to have the maximum functionability and comfort in these suits during that event.
Dustin, why don't you take us through the process? Because I understand that during the shuttle era, we have these orange suits, called the ACES and LES
Hmm.
suits, and they were they came in large, medium, and small.
That's correct.
And then we worked all the way in order to customize it for every Artemis astronaut. And I understand we are working with David Clark Company in Worcester, Manchester. Um, they've been working with NASA for so many years now and developed so many suits. So how is it that we took those old shuttle suits and we transformed into this kind of a mini spacecraft for each one of the individual astronauts?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. So, after the Columbia accident, we started ramping down the shuttle program and started with the Constellation program. And as shuttle ended in 2011, we found ourselves in possession of 60, 70 or so shuttle ACES suits. And there was a lot of, I'd say, delays, confusion during that Constellation time period on how to proceed. But what we did during that time was we started taking those ACES suits and saying, well, how could we make this work for Orion? Because Orion was still then in constellation as it is now in Artemis. That's been the one constant. But we took those suits and we started finding old parts left over from Apollo, Mercury, Gemini, and just started, tinkering ourselves in the background. How could we make this work? What would we add to it? What would we change? And over time it evolved. And then with that, we went back to our vendor, David Clark, and say, how do you take this concept that we built ourselves and make it producible for the crew? Now, you mentioned the sizing of it, small, medium, large, extra large. But what we realized is those suits and shuttle were meant for short durations, a couple hours at the most.
Right, right, right.
It didn't have to be perfect on you. It just had to be good enough to get down and land. In our context, it's going to be days, like I said, if we had an emergency at the wrong point in the mission. And so we knew we had to tailor them to the person. So rather than going with the small, medium, large concept, we have a Reed Wiseman suit and a Victor Glover suit
Uh-huh.
and a Jeremy Hansen suit and a Christina Koch suit, each measured exactly to their dimensions to make it perfect for their fitment. Uh,
Um, Sorry, go ahead.
oh yeah, and then other things like in shuttle, the air would dump overboard from the suit into the cabin, um, and wasn't reclaimed. And this was fine. Again, we were very close to Earth. We had huge tanks. In Orion, we can't do that. In Orion, we have to use every last drop of gas. So instead of that gas being dumped overboard, it recirculates. We scrub out the carbon dioxide we exhale and keep breathing over and over again until we use every last drop. So the architecture fundamentally changed to be more like Apollo, but the suit itself resembling more like shuttle.
I heard you talking in previous interviews on how important the Columbia tragedy changed NASA in every aspect, and how did it help to improve these suits based on on what happened. And also, I'm curious to know if along this process you received, I'm assuming yes, received help from former astronauts, future Artemis, current Artemis astronauts to give you feedback and says, no, this is working, this is not working. How tough was this process?
It was actually it was difficult, and it's taken us. We actually started working Orion in the most basic form back in 2005. So keep in mind, this is almost a 2 decade or over a 2 decade project. But what we learned from Columbia was, several things about integration of the suit to the vehicle and the person to the vehicle. Some of the injuries and causes of injury to the crew were to do with the suit architecture as how it was applied to the vehicle. So I mentioned in shuttle that it would dump gas overboard, and that was okay in the context of us having the large tanks. What wasn't okay, though, was that we dumped almost pure oxygen overboard into the vehicle. We know this is dangerous because of Apollo 1 with the enriched flammable cabin. And so that was one of the reasons why the crew, when they were coming home, couldn't close their visors full time. They were trained to close them in the case of an emergency, but we know that was not possible for the crew. Looking back, taking this lesson, we realize it's unfair to put this burden on the crew that says you must take an action to save yourself. So with that, with the way we designed the ox suit, it's integrated direct to the vehicle. That gas goes back to the vehicle. It never dumps into the cabin. The crew is able to stay full time, isolated in the suit, ready at a split second notice that the suit is able to maintain that environment. No action on their part. The other thing that we really looked into with Columbia was the injuries from the dynamic event that the vehicle went through. And a lot of that was to do with the suit and the way it was integrated to the seats and the seats to the vehicle. And with that, we were able this time as a team, us and Lockheed and all the astronauts, the scientists, take this suit, integrate it directly to the seat to the vehicle, the human to the vehicle. And so it's all one amalgamated entity that now it functioned. And we're holding you tight, but you can operate the vehicle with nothing but your fingertips and eyeballs now. Whereas in shuttle, that was not possible. So compromises had to be made in restraint. I think with the lessons we took from there, we were able to put it together in one nice, tidy package that the crew can wear without any compromise of functionality. And that's key with the safety system. If it compromises your job, it's hard to use that safety system. It's often not used. And in this case, we made it so that it was perfectly integrated to the crew. Very, very specifically, what I'm referring to is the causes of injury in the Columbia accident.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So as we took that accident and dissected it down to each potential cause of fatality for that crew, we took those lessons and said, what could we do better to prevent this in the future? And those very specific aspects were applied to this vehicle. Now, I don't want to make any pretenses saying had all this been done, that accident was survivable. It was a catastrophic tragedy accident that we went through. But in for the legacy of those crew, taking those lessons and applying them here has been our mission this whole time, to make sure that we've done our part to make sure those things don't happen again.
So you mentioned that we have like 70, 75 remaining of those shuttle suits, and you were with David. You went to David Clark, and you were working together to refurbish them and transform them into what we have today, which is the OCSS. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So keep in mind that was in 2011 when we had all of those suits. So many of them have now expired or no longer functional, but many of them we've actually taken and turned those into training suits for Orion. So they live on to this day with parts we've built up here in the lab, and we use them for training of the crew and some of their egress activities, some of their water training activities for post-landing. But we took those suits and that basic design that we did at the time and said, let's look at this together, and how can we make this into the new suit? Make it stronger, make it lighter, make it more robust to the pressure loads that we have to now put on it that are greater than what we did in shuttle. Make it tolerant to that pressure for a 6-day time period. That's a lot of stress on a piece of fabric. Or multiple pieces of fabric in this case, for that duration. And so all of those we built with David Clark. 1, 2, 3. We're ultimately on the 3rd iteration of it right now in terms of our design cycle. And then with that, we went into our qualification testing. We spent about 2 years qualifying this suit to ensure that it's strong enough and tolerant enough to handle all the tasks we're going to put it through.
I did some of my homework, and I studied the difference between, and I have some photos. I understand this is okay, but I have some bullet points of what are the key differences between this crew, these Orion suits, and the previous generations. So we have a pressurized mobility that is a great improvement over the previous one. We have the glass cockpit interface. So I understand the gloves can touch the glass or touch the cockpit the same way we wear a glass and we touch our iPhones, I guess. So they can be interacting with the cockpit. Also, something they have an extraction harness. Can you talk about this extraction harness that they have? So the crew, in case of an emergency or they are incapacitated, they can be taken out of the capsule.
That's correct. And so keep in mind in shuttle that that suit didn't have a harness on it, but over the suit, we wore a parachute harness. And that parachute harness gave us those handholds, gave us that capability, that extraction. Well, by not having a parachute, we inherently were going to lose that with this suit. So what we did was we actually built the harness into the suit. So if you
Oh,
look at the V-shaped blue webbing across the chest
okay.
with,
Yes.
the meatball in the center,
Yes.
right over the chest, you can barely see it, but there's two handholds there. And then if you look down at the upper thighs, you'll see the blue webbing running across the thighs.
No, it's not
Um,
here. It's not here.
yeah, it's not really, but yeah,
Oh,
you can
maybe
see it
here.
there.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you see that slightly lighter blue color?
Yes.
That is reflective tape sewn on there. So if a rescue crew were to come in and shine, it lights up like a Christmas tree. Exactly, grab right here. And so those handles there are actually sewn into a harness that goes fully around the body, around your legs, around your back, just like a fall arresting harness. So it's built into the suit from scratch. So that capability we lost by not having the external harness, we simply built into the suit as an internal integrated harness.
Wow. Okay. How, Dustin, how long does it take to build one of those or finish one of these suits? Like it's custom made from start to finish. You know the name
Right.
and of the astronaut. You know his or her size.
Mm,
How long does it take? Months? Years?
it takes about a year to go from start to finish. If we expedited it, we could probably do it in 6 months or so, but doing it appropriately about 1 year from the date they're announced and we get measurements to the date that we have it received and the astronauts able to be put into it. So over this time period, um, the patterns are being built by David Clark Company. We will send the astronauts several times up to David Clark for refinement. It's imagine going for a fitment of a custom built suit at a tailor. So they will take all your measurements. They will start with the patterning. You'll go in for fittings, adjustments will be made. Same here. But in the context of that, it's just, hey, I'm standing there. In this context, I have to be just standing there, but I also have to be pressurized. I have to
Right.
be able to sit, crawl,
Yeah.
stand, all of these different shapes that the body has to take, and we adapt to those to come up with the best integrated solution. And then all the hard goods components, we don't, David Clark doesn't build everything on the suit. We work with other vendors to provide some of the hard goods that go in there. So all of those, once it comes to us, we integrate all of that into the final thing that we consider the OCSS suit.
What about the helmet? Is the helmet is a complete different universe, or it is also part of the David Clark offering?
It's part of David Clark's
Okay.
manufacture. And so you look at the helmet and you would say, man, that's exactly like the shuttle helmet. And originally, we had intended to use the shuttle helmet because we had done so many studies after Columbia, understanding how it behaves, how we can protect the crew while wearing it, all the benefits it brings by having this large helmet versus a softer or conformal helmet. We had to have room to move around to be able to get to your drink and food. So we really liked the hard helmet. But what we did this go round was instead of a hand laid fiberglass that was custom made back in the shuttle days, we were able to go to pre-impregnated fiberglass fabric, specific molds. And so now they're very, very precise. But with that precision, we were able to take about 2 pounds out of it. 2 pounds is a phenomenal amount of weight for
That's a
space
lot.
flight.
Yeah.
Right, right. And so it's more comfortable for the crew, saves on launch costs. But the other thing we were able to do is actually come up with a specific smaller helmet. And that's specifically for some of the smaller females who in shuttle era always had a bit of a compromise because the helmet would actually go out all the way to the acromion
Yes.
on smaller females. And so it was really neat to have that opportunity to be able to expand the user population to really well-fitting suits and helmets.
I wanted to show how important was campus uh, in Artemis One. This is the, and I don't know if this is the final version of the suit. It was, you were just trying or testing some of the functionality, but how did it help in order to arrive to this last version?
Yeah, the mannequin named after Arturo Campos,
Mhm.
we have here. This is actually at Kennedy Space Center, so this is the final delivered version preparing for Artemis I launch. But one of the things that folks don't realize is before the mannequin, Moonikin, Campos was Campos, in terms of Artemis I, we had been doing testing and development with him over the years. So we had put the mannequin in the suit through vibration tests, integrated suit seat, human mass vibration tests. Campos was actually weighed out to be exactly 178 pounds, which represents the 50th percentile male. And with that, we were able to record all the dynamic responses of the seat in terms of launch vibration, some of our landing studies. We took those and were able to build computer models of them. But keep in mind, when you test in the lab, it's not like flight, not exactly. Um, what we're able to do is then launch Campos and record that seat data, and then take the real flight data and put it back in to enhance our models and make sure everything we predicted was correct. So it's extraordinarily valuable. Coincidentally, today, Campos goes on final display here at Space Center Houston. So the unveiling of that exhibit, it's a real honor to be a part of that, and that his legacy.
So I'm assuming you must be extremely excited because Artemis II, this is it. This is the moment of truth. This is the first time that astronauts are going to use uh, on its full capacity the suits, right?
Yeah, yeah, we've done several dry runs leading up to now, but this is the real show. This is our Super Bowl, which ironically is almost at the same time as a Super Bowl, but it it's a big deal. I was just sitting here this morning, like, why is my chest hurting? I'm like, I think it's finally setting in. What's about to happen? It's exciting. We have several people from our team traveling to Florida today. I'll be traveling there tomorrow, and we will be in quarantine, to protect the astronauts from any communicable diseases or anything, so they don't get
Right,
sick in spaceflight.
right.
We'll be traveling, and then supporting them through the next 2 weeks and suiting them up on launch day. And it's almost overwhelming in the excitement, I think.
I cannot imagine. Dustin, you've been very kind. Yeah. Any feedback from these four astronauts from the Artemis II crew? Are they satisfied? Are they happy? This is great. We have a suit that is comfortable. Any particular feedback that you want to share?
Um, over the course of the years that we've trained with them, there's been evolutions of the suit and the fitment. As we've narrowed it down, we've got it fine-tuned for them, virtually exact. And so the crew right now, and the feedback to us has been overwhelmingly positive about the suit and its capabilities. And we're constantly working with them to optimize things. I think, sure, there will be lessons that we learn to
Right.
further optimize that in later missions. But one of the really interesting things that they'll be doing is on this mission, there's a day where we will be getting into the suits and pressurizing them to really learn how they behave in that microgravity, zero gravity environment, to take it to the next level of preparation for future missions. So we're standing by with bated breath, just waiting to watch that and see and learn even more lessons from the crew.
I know you're busy. I have a couple of last two questions.
No worries.
After Miko, I understand this is a launch and entry suit. They're going to
Mm.
remove their suits. Where are they going to store it?
Uh,
They're folding it. Where do they go? And I guess the chairs as well. They're foldable chairs, so they have more space in the capsule.
They are. And so, like I said, the suits and seats were designed around each other. So you'll see the seats have bolsters on the sides and headrest, bolsters and hip bolsters and all of these things to be able to lock the suit into place for crash protection. Those can actually detach. So while it's a conformal seat, it's also a modular seat. And so we can pull each little part apart. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the vehicle, but if you look at where seats 3 and 4 sit, the lower two
Uh-huh.
people, kind of where their shins go, in that area is where we take all of these components and pile it in there. So the suits, you're correct, are all folded up. The helmets are put into bags. The gloves are put inside the helmets. The com caps put in there. The key to this, though, is that everything is staged so that in the event of emergency, they have access to this in a matter of minutes
Right.
and can be all fully suited within the hour. So every piece of garment is precisely folded and staged that, okay, I grab this first, I grab that first, next, and next, and next, and do that orchestrated events of suiting themselves up in the event of an emergency.
Wow, great. I wanted to. This. I love this photo. I don't know who took this photo, but I love this photo, and I saw that I saw the description. I read the description of the photo. This basically people, the crew rescue teams getting involved or learning about the capabilities of the suit, so they are completely familiarized in case of an emergency. Where this took place?
This actually, by the look of it, this took place on one of the recovery ships that's stationed out of Naval Base San Diego. And so before every event, we will do a briefing. The person briefing there is Nick Houghton from our team. And so we go through, keep in mind that the military will have rotating personnel on these ships. It might be a different ship. So before every event, we do what they call a just-in-time briefing to familiarize, get everyone hands-on. If you go to this vehicle and have to extract this crew, we want you to know every last detail. Those handholds, for example,
Right,
how to
right.
open the visor, how to take the visor and gloves off. And so when we go out for recovery after launch, we will be doing an event just like this as well.
That's incredible. Last question. No, I have two more. What are these blue pouches on the legs? What is it that they carry? Like survival stuff, like a knife? What is it that they carry there?
Those blue bottles on the legs are very specifically oxygen bottles. And so
Okay.
those are 3,000 psi worth of oxygen carried on either leg. Those bottles are extremely unique in that they are about the thickness of 2 sheets of paper, made out of cryo-stretched stainless steel. So they go through this very difficult process of manufacture, but what we get out of it is a bottle assembly that weighs less than 2 pounds even once it's full. And so this allows us to wear it in this particular location. You ask why wear it on the legs like that?
Right.
Well, it goes back to sitting in that seat. When we look at how we fit in the seat, that conformal seat, we're hugging them at the shoulders, the hips, the feet. There you go. So you can see around their at their knees they're supported, at the bottoms of their feet they're supported, on their shoulders there's bolsters that grapple them. All of this, the body's so integrated to the seat, that part on the shin was the one area that was, I'll just say, left over where the bottles could be put. Those bottles are actually one of the things that came over from the shuttle program. The design of them, at least, those were carried in the parachute pack. And so we knew, hey, this is a great design. We had new ones manufactured specifically for Orion, but they give us a capability for pad egress. If there was an emergency, we have about 10 minutes of air if we need to get off the pad and down to the rescue bunker.
Oh, okay.
But since we put oxygen in them, we can also use them on orbit. And so, if there was a problem with the environmental control system, we could close the suit and breathe off the bottles for about 30 minutes. But in future missions, say Artemis 3, 4, 5, where we're working with our partners, you know, you could think of any number of scenarios, but if we had to go from vehicle to vehicle, this gives us our own miniature portable life support system. So we very much tried to design the suit not only for Artemis 2, but also keep in mind all the future missions as well. What can we add in now that makes it adaptable to those scenarios?
So they're going to be used only in case of an emergency.
That is correct. That is
Okay.
correct.
Uh, I see you here when you did the presentation of the suits. Have you ever crossed your mind to become an astronaut?
It 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 did. It did during the shuttle era. I was interested in it, um, and I applied a few times. But honestly, those men and women in the astronaut corps are amazing individuals. I highly respect them. I think I looking back at that, having gone the path I've gone, working with them in this capacity, giving them the ability to have the safety in their missions, I don't think I would change a thing at this point.
What happens if someone offers you, there's a seat of a Crew Dragon for going to the space station? would you go?
I certainly wouldn't turn it down. Yeah,
There you
my
go.
wife might have something to say about it, but
Yeah, all right.
I would certainly wouldn't turn it down. It would be an amazing opportunity.
Dustin, it was a pleasure. I think we learned a lot about the suits, and thank you so much for the efforts, and congratulations and good luck with the mission. I think this is going to be an incredible test. I'm sure it's going to be successful. So thank you.
I believe so. Thank you for hosting us, and thank you for getting the word out about NASA. It's fantastic for folks to hear about this and just understand all that goes into a mission like this. It's an amazing accomplishment. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.